This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, Kate Floss, citizen reporter, opening up the Ministry of Deconfusion. Welcome everybody to the Ministry of Deconfusion of Kate Floss to let you know what's going on in the world. What is happening is, as you all know, that they're bringing down the Commonwealth and they're closing down all the connections that we made between New Zealand, Australia, England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. But Wales were not in it, actually. It's all the land countries. If you look at our countries, they're called England, Scotland, Ireland, New Zealand. And Australia used to be called New Holland, all right? And the man that wrote all the sovereignty laws and all of that, he was a man called Hugo Grotius, and he was born in a place called New, and he wrote all of his books and everything about the sovereign nations and our right to be sovereign in our own nations. He did that in a place called Zeal, and it was him that sent out the Dutch explorer Abel Tasman to Australia, which was called New Holland, and then all our countries were called the And countries. Now, he was put into the prison for going up against the church. Many people were put in the prison and burned alive, had their tongues cut out, four-quartered, had their arms, legs tied up to horses and pulled apart. All of these things were going on. And so there was a huge battle going on in 1688 around that time. And then they brought in the right that they said, because this was the problem, is that the churches said that you're not permitted to go directly to God. Now, if you're thinking about the heavenly realm and you watch my last video, is as it is in heaven, as it is above, then it is, so it is below. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. And in heaven, you're permitted to go directly to God. But when you're born out of the womb onto the earthly plane, they had to create a way that we were still able to go directly to God. It's kind of like a false illusion on the earthly plane to emulate what goes on in the heavenly plane, okay? And one of the things in 1688, when they gave us the 1688 Will and Mary, it was called the Will of Jesus. When they gave that to us, they gave us the ability to go directly to God. And who is God? The God is Lord Spiritual, Lord's Temporal, and the Commons. And we come under the written common law called your indubitable right. And I want to show you what the difference is. Now, all our Commonwealth countries and the Pacific Islands, all of our islands have been taken over by religious cults, and they are now running the world. The world's being governed by the religious cults, and this is what's going on with Russia. China are opposed to it. They come under the ARC countries. Australia was made into an ARC country. America with an A and an A. Asia with an A and an A, all right? And then Russia and China, I'm not sure how they come into it, but they've only got the one A. We used to be called the land countries, England, Scotland, Ireland, New Zealand. New Zealand came later, all right? And then when Captain Cook went into Australia and took Australia exactly 145 years after Abel Tasman, then it became a AA country, Australia. Now they're trying to make New Zealand into Aotearoa, and that's going to be a AA country as well. And we're no longer going to be one of the ANZ. And that we all came under, not Australia, the United Kingdom. Well, you have to be careful because the United Kingdom can also come under Untied Kingdom. Untied Kingdom. And so what had happened was they're trying to get rid of our power to go directly to the heavenly realm and and prosecute any of them. This is what they're trying to prevent. Now, I'll show you a little bit of, it's hard for me to explain what I go in my head, but I will try, okay? So we'll just use these as an example, but several of the churches run according to this. Now, if you go here, let's just use the Latter-day Saints as an example, okay? All right, let's just use the Latter-day Saints as an example. So these are called Area 7. Oh, actually, I've got the wrong one here. Hang on, I'll stop that share. That's the wrong one. So inside the Mormon Church, they have a thing called general authorities. And so I'm going to show you about the general authority. So the general authority is a member of the highest levels of the leadership of the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, who has the administrative, ecclesiastical authority over the church. Now it says there, authority over the church. They're not supposed to have authority over countries. And unfortunately, they've overstepped their mark and they now have authority over our countries, especially New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. A general authority's jurisdiction is supposed to be church-wide, in contrast to responsibilities of the local authority or the area authority, which relate to the particular area, unit, or department or church. As a group, the general authorities are often referred to as brethren. And there are 109 general authorities. Now, I want you to have a look here at I'm not sure if I can share full screen. Let's see if I can share full screen and it might be easier. So I'm not sure if no, I don't want to share full screen. All right, so if you go to, sometimes I get a bit mixed up here. All right. All right, so if you go to our Bill of Rights, so this is why they're after trying to get rid of our heavenly authority. So this is our direct authority from the will of Jesus. And what it says here, we come under the supremacy law here. And it says here, I do declare that no foreign prince, person, prelate, state, or potentate ought to have any jurisdiction, any power, any superiority, any preeminence, any authority, or ecclesiastical or spiritual within this realm. So help me God. So they are forbidden from governing over us. All right. So unfortunately, what they've done is and this applies to all of our Commonwealth countries. Okay. And through putting us under the United Nations and putting us under the United Nations laws, which I'll show you in another video, but not today, putting us under those laws, they're trying to remove our heavenly protections that prevent ecclesiastical authority over us. So that's what they're after here. If you can try and see where I'm coming from. You'll hear me a lot talking about this kind of stuff. So then, so if you, to put my stuff away here, get it all mixed up. So if you go back to the general authority, which is here, and it says here that they are an ecclesiastical authority over the church, but the ecclesiastical leaders are not supposed to be authorities over us. So this is how they differ. See, the first scriptural use of term general authority was in the minutes of the meeting for the organization of the presiding High Council in 1834. Now in 1834, they were in New Zealand and they had divided up all the New Zealand chiefs, and that's when they gave them their ecclesiastical flag, which is what they're trying to put New Zealand under right at this moment. Though the original minutes did not refer to the general authorities, the revised minutes were included in the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants. And it was at this time when New Zealand signed up a flag with the king. The king actually sent them a flag and he wasn't supposed to. And they got signed up under this Doctrine and Covenants with the Latter-day Saint Church. And then they stated that the decisions of the Quorum of 12 Apostles, have a listen here, the Quorum of 12 Apostles can only be called into question by the general authorities. So you can see here, these were the original 12 apostles, and they were functioning in America. And when the 1680, after the War of Roses and the 1688 Will and Mary came to power, these people here had split from England and they'd gone off and set up shop in America. And in America, they threw England out and they made themselves inalienables. But at that same time, they were over in New Zealand trying to take New Zealand. Now, the New Zealand chiefs rose up and got them thrown out of New Zealand. And in 1865, we were put under the protections of the Queen's law. And we were given the power to petition directly to the heavenly realm of the Lord's spiritual and Lord's temporal. Now, that is not the case with the Latter-day Saint Church, nor the case with many of the churches. With many of the churches, you need an intermediary, and they are the only ones that are permitted to go directly to the 12 apostles with your grievances. And it is the 12 apostles that act in the place of God, right? Outside of the courts, they have ecclesiastical courts that are separate from our Protestant courts. And then they decide what they want to decide, and they give the order to the general authority. And then it is the general authority that will come back down and give it to you. That I told you in yesterday's video. What did I tell you in yesterday's video is that when you not the criminal court, not the criminal court, but the High Court, when you want to go to the High Court with your 1688 Will and Mary to protest against things that are against the heavenly realm, when you want to go there, we don't need an intermediary. And it's actually the High Court and the Supreme Court that acts in a kind of an earthly heavenly realm for you, okay? Because to go to the proper heavenly realm, you would actually have to physically die. So they recreated this system where you can enter the heavenly realm, but you don't actually have to physically die, all right? So I understand it. You'll understand it if you follow me. So many of the churches have also created their own heavenly realms. And within their heavenly realms, you have to go through an intermediary to get to God and get to the heavenly realm. This is what the battle is all about. And we'll use the Latter-day Saints as an example, but most of the churches, the Catholic Church and other churches, are run in this kind of a system, okay? But we are the protest ants. Protestant just means protest ants, that we all said, we don't want to go through an intermediary to get to the godly realm. We want to go directly to the godly realm. And we want the Queen and the parliamentarians and the kings and the religious leaders, we want them all to be accountable just like we have to be accountable. You see? So this is how all of that came about. Now, in the Latter-day Saints that have the 12 apostles, and you go to them and it's them that has the direct covenant with God, so they say, all right? And in order to get your grievances to them, you need to go through a general authority. Ian Aradern is a general authority, okay? And they're often called Area 70s. And then, as I said to you, it is only the general authorities that are permitted to go there. And so then what I want to show you today is how, so Ian Aradern, where is Ian Aradern? So Ian Aradern is a general authority, right? And you can see here, we're not really focused on him per se, but we're just saying that he is a general authority and he is married. So you can't get into the Mormon wiki about him. It's very hard now to get information on him, but he is the uncle of Jacinda Ardern, okay? And he's married to a woman called Paula Judd. Now, Paula Judd is the daughter, obviously, of a man called President Judd. And President Judd, they're usually called area presidents. So when I tried to find Paula Judd's father, President Judd, it's very hard to find the fathers because all the Judds, if you see the Judds here, when you go to the Judds, if you go to the President Judds, and they're very clever at doing this, what you'll see is many, many, many Judds. So we've got Daniel Judd, then you've got Peter Judd, and then you've got, there's Daniel Judd, Gary Judd, Shane Judd, all the Judds, Paul Judd. So what they do is there's so many of the Judds involved with the church, and they all come from America. You'd have to go research until the cows come home, but our focus isn't them. Our focus is protecting what our focus needs to do is to protect our right through the 1688 will and Mary to go directly to the heavenly realm and not have to go through the United Nations and intermediaries. That's what we're trying to protect. So I'm going to turn all of that off, all right? And you can go and research that yourself, or I might be able to try to put some of them up in the box for you, but that's not the main area of our video. So what I wanted to do under the 1688 Bill of Rights, what I wanted to do was to go to the court. And what I had gone to the court for, I'll show you let's see if I can find it. So I had gone to the court. Okay, I get a bit confused here. It was irrelevant of why I was going to the court. I went to the court and I used the 1688 and I asked for a declaration. I asked for I had 4 causes and I had 4 prayers. When you go to the heavenly court, you make a prayer. I'm not going to tell you that because I'll do it in another video. But anyway, when I got struck out from the prayer, I went to the Court of Appeal. And this is the tricky thing. This is where they get you. And it's just occurred also for another man. Somebody from the Human Rights Commission had written a great big story. It was in the newspapers and everything about false history, about what the Anglo people had apparently burned women and children in churches, burned them alive. And this was a false story. And this man went to the Human Rights Commission, just as I went to the court, and he filed a complaint against her and asked her to withdraw the story and to admit publicly. And he sent all the true history that no women and children were burned in those churches. And in fact, both of the churches that she mentioned were still standing today. And the head of the Race Relations of Human Rights Commission, he turned down the taking back of the story. And the man that had prosecuted it, he could have taken it to the appeals. But once he took it to the appeals, he was going to be able to lose money, and he was going to have to pay a lot of money even to get the appeal in. And even if, when you go to the appeals, even if you win, see, this is why you don't want to go through these intermediaries. Even if you win, you can be charged for making the allegation. Even if you win it, you can still be charged. So it's not worth going there. And this is exactly what happened to me in the court. When I arrived in the appeal court, they hit me with a fee. They hit me with the $7,000 security fee. But then when I went to read it, and it says that even if they win, even if I win, I still might have to pay them. Now, this happened to a man called, right, let me find this for you. All right, so this happened to a man called Fitzgerald. And Fitzgerald went to the court and he filed a case. I think I've turned it off. He filed a case against the Prime Minister Muldoon, right? Oh, I've got it here. All right, I'll show you here. So he went to the court. So Fitzgerald went to the court, and he was a humble young public servant that thought that the law was wrong. He stepped forward as no one else would, and no group was prepared to stand alongside him. This is just like me. He was charged a fee was $3,000, or in today's money is $23,000, which was more than half his salary. His case, even though it was calling the Prime Minister to account of a violation of his right under S1 of the 1688 Bill of Rights, had garnered no public attention. And because it had garnered no public attention, okay, his case, even though he won his case, he still had to pay the money, all right? Now, this case here, all these years later, was put into a book by the New Zealand judges, and it was called Challenge and Change, Judging in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the contributors were Chief Justice Winkleman and Justice Cos, and others from LexisNexis. Now, his case had generated no public interest, but they have used his case time after time after time after time. And now it's even in a book, and it's taught in every single law school in New Zealand and Australia and England, because his case went directly to the heavenly realm using the 1688 Will and Mary. And even though he won his case, he had to pay the money. Now, this is a great thing for us, because I went to the 1688 Bill of Rights, and under the 1688 Bill of Rights, we've got that it is the right of the subjects to petition the king and or successive majesty, and all commitments and prosecutions are illegal. Now, you see the difference between the case of the man that went to the Human Rights Commission, who went through an intermediary. So if we was to use the 1990 Bill of Rights to go to the United Nations, they would block him right there. But we've actually, it says here, all commitments are illegal. And I've said to the court, it is illegal for you to charge me money, because I'm more than likely to drop the case, because it's not even going to matter if you win the case, because you're going to end up just like poor old Fitzgerald, win the case and still have to pay thousands of dollars. And so this is the sneaky thing that they've done to us. So under your 1688 Will and Mary, when we came to New Zealand, many of us were given a document like this. And in this, our alien status, it says here, whereas certain Germans, not sure if I can make that bigger for you or not. I can zoom it, I think. So there you go. So here it says, where certain Germans, being the person particularly described in the schedule in this ordinance, have settled in this colony, Her Majesty has been graciously pleased to assent to the removal from them the disabilities to which aliens are by law subject. Now, in America, everybody that entered their shores, they made them all aliens, all right? But some of us that came to New Zealand and Australia, we had this alien status removed. And then we would directly, see, this was directly from Her Majesty that was graciously pleased to assent to remove our alien status. And this was when we were able to be subjects, and as subjects to all in singular, the persons particularly described in the schedule shall be to all intents and purposes within this colony deemed and taken to be and to have been from the 14th day 1843 natural born subjects of Her Majesty, as if they had been respectively born within the realm of New Zealand. Now, it doesn't end there. My name is on there from my great-great-great-great-grandfather. And then when you go down, if you belong on one of these, now in Scotland, you've got these. In Ireland, you've got these. Your clans, each of your clans have got these, okay? But you'll have to find them. But then with that, you come under this thing called the Bills of Exchange, all right? And then under the Bills of Exchange, you see here where it's got these letters, A, B, G, H, J, K. It's got here A, B. We are the A, B, okay? C, D, it will be C, A, B, C, D. And you'll see that same thing up here where you've got A, B are the managers, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, K, L, M, N, O, and the joker's been left out. Okay, so I, K, L, M, N, O, they're the directors, but it's the A, B that are the managers, all right? And then all of these people here come under the AB, all right? So, because then when you write a petition, you put AB of Jud of the branch of the Union Bank of Australia. That became ANZ. Now, remember that I said to this ANZ because that's the Australia New Zealand Bank. And all these people went into a trust. And then, but it doesn't end there. When they do anything against your 1688, you come under here, know all men, and then this gives you the permission that you demand the payment of the bill of exchange, or which demand be made answer, I do protest the said bill of exchange. And what I've said to them in my court hearing is that I do, if I can find it here, So I have said that I do declare that I am Catherine, and I am faithful and bear true allegiance to their Majesties King William and Queen Mary. Know all men that I, Catherine Ann Sixtus, do protest the said bill of exchange by the court registrar, marked DE, and all fees pertaining to my subject right to petition for a declaration protected by S1 of the Will and Mary, that it is the right of the subjects to petition the King and all successive Majesty, and all commitments and prosecutions are illegal. So I have said to them that when they charged Fitzgerald for his case and they made him pay, I have said to them that it was illegal that they did that. So my $1,000 that they've asked me to enter the appeal court is no longer the argument. I gave them a new argument because they've used this case in the challenge and change judging in Aotearoa by New Zealand Chief Justice. I'll post it up to you in the links so you'll be able to go to it and have a look, and the pages that it's on. It's on page 118 and page 119, and you can go and have a look at everything to do with the Fitzgerald's case. And I'm saying to them that they should never have charged him, regardless of whether he won or regardless of whether he lost. Whenever you're going to the heavenly realm under the 1688, unlike when you go to the United Nations, unlike when you go to the Human Rights Commission, unlike when you go to the 12 apostles or you go through the intermediaries, we get a direct link through our lineage of law, through our birthright, all the way back to 1688. We get a direct lineage and we are permitted to go directly to God, and we can make the prayer. So I had made prayers. I don't know if I'll put the prayers in here. I don't think I have. But we are permitted to make the prayers to the court. So I've protested that. So I'll turn that off now. So where are we in this case now? So this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that it's very important that we fight for our 1688, and we must fight for it with our lives. Because if we don't fight for it, we're going to be just exactly like this man that went to the Human Rights Commission, and just like Fitzgerald, when we get there, all they're going to do is strike out our case immediately when we enter, and we're going to say, even though you're correct, we're not going to do anything about it, and therefore we strike out your case. And then you are going to do exactly what they think that you're going to do. You're going to go and petition it, just like the man petitioned the Human Rights Commission, and just like Fitzgerald petitioned to the court. And then the court is going to, I believe illegally, the court is going to order you, even if you win the appeal, you still have to pay the expenses of the respondents that you called in, even though they are the cause of you making that appeal, because these are not criminal convictions. These are only respondents about questions of law, and it's not actually a crime in the criminal code, but it is against the law in the Cabinet Manual. In God's law, it's against that law that's in the Cabinet Manual. And we have a direct covenant with the court and with the Lord Spiritual to go there. But if we allow them to transfer us to the United Nations or transfer us to the American law because of LexisNexis, then we're going to lose that right. And it's going to be very bad. So presently, I put in that case on the, now when did I put that case in? I put that, so I'll just tell you what's going on in my case. I think I'm allowed to share the things, as long as I let you know that the people that I've called in, you'll see that they're not defendants, all right? They're not defendants, they're respondents, and I've only called them in about a question of law. Now, this is all to do with our direct covenant. You'll see them there: Catherine Sextus, Jacinda Ardern, Chris Farfoy, Andrew Little, Ashley Bloomfield. None of them have done anything wrong, because they're in the cabinet manual, which I will teach you in the next lesson is going to be about the cabinet manual. But I'm showing you about your direct covenant today. And I called them into the court, and the court said, no, they're not coming. The Court of Appeal said they must come, but here's the catch-22. If they do come, even if I win, I'm going to have to pay. So you can see here that we have, it says here the respondents, not defendants, respondents, because they're only being called to this because they are the politicians that are in power at the moment, but they have done nothing wrong. I'm looking at a question of law that occurred many years before they ever went to power. So they're not at fault, but you only just call them to ask them about that point of law because they're in the power at the moment. And so then it says that they give notice that they will appear. They are going to appear to my case. But here is the dilemma for me. Here is the dilemma for me. If I call them and I carry on with my case, even if I win my case, just like Fitzgerald, I'm going to have to pay for that case. And it's going to cost me a lot of money. They've said it's going to probably cost around $14,000. Now, my husband has agreed to let me have that for my husband has been very nice to allow me to have that for, my husband has been very kind enough to allow me to have that from his retirement fund if I need it. But that's not going to do us any good, is it? And why is it not going to do us any good? Because I'm trying to open up the courts for all of you. And so if I can't open up the courts for all of you, you're just going to be in the same position as that poor man Fitzgerald, and the same position as that poor man that went to the Human Rights Commission, in that if you appeal it, once it goes to appeal, even if you win the case, see, in the lower court, this is the thing, in the lower court, this is the sneaky thing, in the lower court, in the high lower court in regards to constitutional law, if you win the case, you don't actually have to pay them anything. But here's the kicker: if it goes to the appeals court, even if you win the case, you have to pay the expenses of the people that you've called. See, yeah, you see, because you called them, even if you win it. And so this is how they're catching everybody, and this is why no cases have been. So what I'm trying to say, so I've used my 1688 Bill of Rights again. So I want you to get very used to this 1688 Bill of Rights. So I've used the 1688 Bill of Rights, and I've said that IAB, see, here's AB, you are AB, IAB, and then I'm saying I do declare that no foreign prince or authority, ecclesiastical or spiritual, that includes all the United Nations, ought to have any jurisdiction or any authority over me. All right, I've said you've not got, and then I have said that under my authority, that it is the right of the subjects to petition directly to the court, the highest court, the Supreme Court, and all commitments and prosecutions for such petitioning are illegal. And this is how I was able to call them into the court, because they must come to the court, because according to this, I have the right to call them to the court. Because how do you get that right? Because it says it here in the parliaments, it says that in the cabinet manual, they have to uphold all of these laws. And if they're not upholding them, the only means for obtaining a full dress and a remedy against them not upholding is to go to the heavenly realm. And when you go to the heavenly realm, you will be getting your subjects' liberties to be allowed, and you will be given a declaration, and the declaration will order all of them to stand down on that issue. So they're going to contact the Prime Minister, they're going to contact all of them, and they're going to have discussions about it outside of us. We're not even going to be privy, and they're going to be saying, why aren't you upholding the cabinet manual, and did you make this law? And then it's the courts that will give you a declaration ordering them to stand down. Nobody is prosecuted, but the awful thing is that even if you're correct, even if you get your declaration just like Fitzgerald, even if you get that, you're going to have to pay. So I've said that no, we don't have to pay. So this is very good case for us, because it's really not going to matter. The first case that we put in has now become secondary, because now we're already in the heavenly realm and we're using the heavenly laws, and what we're doing is demonstrating that unlike the Latter-day Saint Church or the Catholic Church or any of the churches where you have to go through them to get the heavenly realm, we get to go directly to Almighty God directly and tell him what our issues are. And so this is what I want to protect. So I have since had a letter from, so this was only for, it's $1,000 just to enter, and then another $7,000 security fee. And then even if you win your case, it is that $7,000 that the respondents get to take. They still get paid even if you win. So I am disputing that. So then I had to send a letter to them, to the $7,000, and ask them if I could have a deference of that while I'm waiting for the order. So I'll show you that today. I think I'm permitted to show that. I'm making this video, I can send it later. So here it is here. So I don't think these are confidential because they're mine. So I had sent a letter. The Supreme Court sent me a letter, and they said that the $1,000 is not of the $7,000 security fee. So I've said, dear Ms. McGrath, the appeal court has set the security fee of $7,000, and the appellant, which is me, must pay by the 19th of July. And I have recently submitted an appeal about the decline, because they had declined my fee waiver. I'd asked for a fee waiver on the $1,000, and they had declined. And then they'd sent me a letter saying security fee is different from the original fee to make the appeal. So I said to them, I understand that the fee waiver is separate from the security cost, which is not governed by the Court of Appeal regulations and will not be dealt with by the judge reviewing the decline of the fee waiver. So I've got three cases going on here. I've got the original case that was struck out and gone to appeal. Got that case, one. Second, I've got the 1,000 where they want to charge me even for filing this appeal. There's a 1,000 charge, and I've used the 1688 to apply for a fee waiver. The fee waiver was declined, right? And so I have appealed the registrar's declination of that $1,000. And I have used the Fitzgerald case as an example. And then now we've got the third one, which is the $7,000, which I've asked for in a deferment while I wait for the ruling of the second one. So I said under 35.6 of the Court of Appeal Civil Rules, I wish to request of the respondents and the appeal court a desire to defer issues such as security costs to be dispensed with, reduced, or deferred. And until I get the decision of the judge about the declined fee waiver, issue is complete. I'm requesting that this deference, based on the possibility that the judge will be able to answer a point of law pertaining to the 1688 will and Mary constitutional law that I'm not clear about. And I said that this is what I'm not clear about, that it is a right to petition, that it is the right of the subjects asked to petition the king, and all commitments and prosecutions for such petition are illegal. Then I have sent a letter. I got a letter from Ms. McGrath. I acknowledge receipt of Ms. Sextus's application of the Court of Appeal to defer the date by which security costs must be paid, and under 35 for an extension of time to a further application under yada yada until after the determination of Ms. Sextus's application for the review of my decision declining the waive of the filing fee for the notice of appeal. That's what it's called, the filing fee. So the filing fee was $1,000. The registrar, Ms. McGrath, declined my filing fee, and that was a wonderful opportunity for me. The minute that they declined my filing fee, I was able to go directly to the judge, directly to the heavenly realm, and say that they've declined me, and I've said to the heavenly realm that it is my right and all commitments are illegal. And we're 2 weeks in, and we're still waiting for the ruling on that. I've recently had a letter from Ms. Rebecca. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Now, Rebecca is the Crown Counsel in our case. The respondent understands Ms. Sextus has applied for 3660 of the Appeal Court to defer the date by which security costs must be paid, and under R3510 for an extension of time to make any further application under 35.6 in respect of security costs. So that's another battle. The respondent has no objection to either application being deferred until Ms. Sextus's application for review of the decision declining the waive the filing fee for the notice of appeal is determined. So, right, so I'll just put that down there and I'll stop sharing it. So here is a summary of all that's going on, all right? We applied for the first case where we asked for the prayer to confirm that the 1688 Will and Mary is our true indubitable right above the 1990 Bill of Rights. Now that here you can clearly see the difference between the two. And as can be seen by the man who went to the Human Rights Commission, he filed his case, and then immediately when he files his case, they block him out, and he's going through them, and then he will go to the appeal in the Human Rights Commission, which is United Nations, and in that one, he has to pay. Now, as soon as he's gone into the Human Rights Commission, that is a different jurisdiction from our heavenly realm as subjects. It's totally different. And when you enter there, you're no longer protected under the king. And so when he gets to his appeal section, whether he wins or not is irrelevant. If he wins the case, just like Fitzgerald, he's going to have to pay. But I'm saying, so, but I've gone, and so he cannot use the right to petition the king, and all commitments are illegal. He can't use it. And so this is exactly why we don't want to go under United Nations, United Charter of Human Rights and all of that. You don't want to, because your ability to enter the heavenly realm, your direct covenant with God is removed from you. That's why, and you're no longer able to enter the heavenly realm. And that's what they're trying to take away from you. And so, so my first case went to the court, the High Court, and I called in Jacinda Ardern and various others to ask about a question of law. My question of law is that Section KII of the Human Rights, that New Zealand will be bound to any human rights documents, instruments. That's what I've protested. When I got in there, I got struck out, and then the appeal court, the filing fee was $1,000. And I applied for an appeal waiver, just like the man at the Human Rights Commission. My appeal waiver was turned down. Now, this is fantastic news. Immediately that my fee waiver was turned down by the registrar, I automatically get my direct lineage to God. And I go to Almighty God and I say, under the 1688 will and Mary, I'm the will of Jesus, I call it the will of Jesus. Under the will of Jesus, I'm permitted to petition about questions of law if it's repugnant. And then human rights is repugnant, and all commitments to that are illegal. And I didn't use even me. I threw up Fitzgerald's case and I said to him, and by the way, I think that you illegally charged Fitzgerald and made him pay when he shouldn't have been ordered to pay, actually, but he didn't call it. And it's a pity that he didn't. So now I'm calling it. So we're 2 weeks in. I put that in, I think it was, I put it in on the 19th. I think that I had put that, no, previously, the 13th. So I put it in on the 13th of July, and we're 2 weeks in now. So we're now the 28th of July. And so we're still waiting for that ruling. And so keep an eye out, because I'm going to be having a live show. I'll have the live show on YouTube around about 6 o'clock or something like that. But keep an eye out. But I just wanted to put this up so you all kind of understand. And if you want to ask me questions, you can send me questions directly and I'll answer them for you. But this is the difference between going through the Latter-day Saint church or temple to get your grievances heard, or going through the Catholic Church to get your grievances heard, or going to the United Nations to get your grievances heard, or when you have a direct covenant with God to get your grievances heard, all right? And so this is the difference of what you can do, and you can actually do quite a lot. So I'll just put up my screen share. If anybody wants to donate to me, I do spend a lot of time on my videos, and I am doing this full time. And I know a lot of people are asking for donations. Don't put Kate Floss though, but you could put ASB New Zealand, Miss C.M. Waterman, 123167010113050. If you want to make a donation to Kate Floss, you can put it in here for me if you want to. And I'll be happy to enjoy that and go and buy myself some juice or some chocolate or something for my videos. It's very hard work what I'm doing, but it is significant to you. Now, this is significant for Scotland, Ireland, because they're trying to remove this from Scotland. They're removing it from England. They're removing it from Australia. And they're taking away your right to directly order politicians, parliamentarians, police. They're taking away your right to do that, and they're giving you the alternative option that you can file a complaint at the United Nations, at the Human Rights Commission, using the Human Rights Act, the 1990 Bill of Rights Act, the Charter of the United Nations. They're giving you an alternative, and the alternative does not give you the heavenly power. It gives you very little power. It's an intermediary, and they're not allowed to do it. And I will just remind you, I do actually just want to say one thing. It does actually say to us, it tells us that if the king goes rogue, or any of them go rogue, it actually does tell us the tender of the crown. It says here that having an entire confidence that His Highness Prince of Orange, we gave this to them and we made them sign it, and that we said, if you want to be kings and queens over us, you need to protect this for us. That is your job. That is why you're there. And it says here, and the reason why you're there, so that we can have a direct covenant with God, and we'll perfect the deliverance so far advanced, and we'll still preserve for them. So they have to preserve in order to keep their seat, they have to preserve any violation of their rights, which they have here asserted. And from all attempts upon their religion, Protestant Protestants, our rights and our liberties, and the said Lord Spiritual Temporal Commons assembled at Westminster do resolve that William and Mary, Prince and Princess of Orange, be declared king and queen. Their declaration of being declared king and queen was based on them preserving our right to call them or any politician to the court when they violate or do anything repugnant to our rights. And that's what they're removing on from us through the United Nations. And it says, do resolve, be declared king and queen, France and Ireland. Now, this is before the United Kingdom was established. It didn't have Scotland, and it didn't have New Zealand, and it didn't have Australia. New Zealand comes under with Scotland and Northern Ireland. And the dominions, here we are here, and the dominions thereunto belonging. So originally we were a dominion. To hold the crown and royal dignity of the said kingdom and dominions to them, the said prince and princess during their lives and the life of the Orange names during their joint lives and after their deceases. Now, when they die, the said crown and royal dignity of the said kingdoms and dominions to be the heirs of the body of the said princess. So the heirs of them, right? Now it says here, and for the default of such issue. So if there's any default, we are then, so if our prince or our queen betrays us and puts us under the United Nations, if they betray us, it tells us what we need to do. It tells us that we need to find another shelf for the preservation of our right to petition directly to God. And so it says we have to place our declaration onto the Princess Anne of Denmark and their heirs and their issues, and for the default of such issue to the heirs of the body of the Prince of Orange, and the Lord Spiritual and Temporal and Commons do pray the said prince and princess to accept the same accordingly. So that's just what it's saying, that if the king or queen betrays us and puts us under the United Nations, we're to find another shelf. So whoever holds our 1688 just keeps it so that we have the right as sovereign beings to directly protest and to directly protest to the heavenly realm. We don't need to go through Parliament or police or anybody. We can do it on our own, as I've shown you. And it's this right that we don't want to let them remove from us, right? Now, the Americans got that removed from them, but there were a few states that didn't, and they're trying to destroy them as well. So we all need to stand together to protect this with our very lives. This is the war that's going on here. This is the war. And this is what Russia is fighting to keep for us. They are. And even China wants us to keep it. And that's a bit of a long story, but I won't go into it today. So that's the end of my video. Kate Floss. Kate Floss. Oh, you can see this. Okay. Kate Floss signing out from the Ministry of Deconfusion. It's not really the Ministry of Deconfusion today. It's the Ministry of the Kate Floss Court, which all of this is for entertainment purposes. And I'm a Protestant, so this is the court of the Protestants, not the court of lawyers. We don't need lawyers. They'll tell you you need a lawyer, but under our laws, we don't. So this is the court of the Protestants. So I'll call this Protestant court. This is called Protestant court. We've got the Ministry of Deconfusion, where I'm deconfusing all the information that you're getting. And then we've got the court of the Protestants, and anything to do with the court is going to come up under Court of Protestant. Kate Floss, Protestant Court. I think I'm going to give these headings. So this is going to be called Kate Floss in the Protestant Court. And anything to do with the courts, I'm going to do in here. Then I've got Kate Floss of the Ministry of Deconfusion, and all the confusion that they're laying on you to keep your mind off of what's going on here. That's all in the Ministry of Deconfusion. All right, so we've got Kate Floss Protestant Court, and we've got the Ministry of Deconfusion. All right, and then we've also got Kate Floss Entertainment, which is really fun. Okay, so try and tie all this in for you. Keep watching, because there's a lot going on. You've got to learn. How do we get involved with the war? This is a war of information. And what we've got to do is study, and figure out where our legs need to be. I know where my legs are. You've got to figure out where your legs need to be. All right. See you later, Kate Floss.